Let's head a little closer to home because my next guest has been in tennis a long time. He's been a player. He's been a coach. He's become a very good administrator, and he's back in his home state of Victoria the last few months after a couple of stints in the ACT and also at Tennis Queensland. I talk of the current Tennis Victoria CEO Kim Kachel. Kim, great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Brett. Appreciate the invite.
You've been busy, no doubt. You come to Victoria, roll the sleeves up, as you've done in your previous roles. You've sort of been in charge of Tennis Vic since about mid-year. How have you found the last few months?
Yeah, no, look, I'm approaching 3 months here shortly, and it's been fantastic to get out and about and meet with stakeholders on the ground. Obviously, first and foremost, meeting the Tennis Victoria team and the board and whatnot, but really tried to get out and about and hear firsthand how things are travelling from clubs, coaches, volunteers and administrators all across the state. And it's been great. I started straight into the state grade finals and grade 1 finals at Royal South Yarra. So it was great to see that pinnacle of inter-club competition, and I know state grade was a beloved competition in Pennant for many, many years and had a bit of a hiatus there. So it was back after that break in its second iteration. And great to see the clubs turning out in support of those Pennant competitions.
Kim, that's one thing people have told me about you is that you do get out and amongst the people, which the CEO needs to do. You need to be on the ground and feel it and see it, and talk to all the people who are at the coalface of the sport. I mean, you came from a vast state in Queensland for a year, which is a lot more ground to cover than Victoria. But obviously, it's a big part of your role, isn't it, to really get out and hear and talk to the people who are, basically so passionate and playing such a huge role in the sport that we love.
Yeah, absolutely, and I do think it is really important to get out to clubs, coaches, volunteers, teachers, administrators at their clubs and at the grassroots. And every trip I've been on, whether that be across ACT, Queensland, Victoria, it's always provided invaluable insights and hearing of the opportunities and some of the challenges that the clubs and coaches are facing out there. But it really is important to hear from our stakeholders and make sure that we're listening to that feedback and trying to improve things where possible. And I've been really fortunate to get some great feedback across all of those trips.
What's the major difference? I mean, certainly one thing I've learned, and we do this show from Melbourne, so I have probably a bigger connection with Tennis Victoria than some of the other state and territory bodies, and I've got a feel, obviously, for the Melbourne Victorian tennis community, and each state does sort of differ a little, doesn't it? I mean, the principles are the same, but just in terms of the structure, can you sort of compare the ACT and the vastness of a state like Queensland and now Victoria?
Yeah, look, they've all got. I've been really fortunate because they've all got fantastic tennis communities, yep. ACT, Queensland and Victoria. They are unique in their own ways. ACT, obviously a smaller jurisdiction, but a really collegiate group of coaches and clubs there. And we did a lot of different things, from working with Nick Kyrgios through to running a whole heap of Pro Tour events in Canberra and nationals on the clay courts. So got that vast experience of being tournament director and running those events, through to obviously Club Spark and Booker Court being embedded across all the clubs. And then you go to Queensland, and again, very unique landscape, the distance, the sheer size of the state, and those big population hubs outside of southeast Queensland. There's 7 really distinct regions of Queensland that are very unique in their own ways. And you got far north, central, Sunshine Coast, Gold Coast, yep. Metro and South, and across each region there's differences, but very parochial tennis community in Queensland, and they've always had such a rich history in producing players. They've got a lot of great coaches up there, a lot of strong tournaments, and that real tournament culture across the state. And then Victoria, obviously home of the AO, which is a huge advantage, but it's really got the biggest size and scale, if you like, purely in terms of numbers. So you've got near on 800 affiliates and 1,200 odd venues out there,
Yep.
and 1,200 odd coaches as well. So you've then got the big balance in Victoria of pennant association competition and tournaments. So ACT in Victoria, a bit unique in that regard in centrally managing and administering the league structures. But you've got the whole gamut across those 3 states and territories.
You've probably had the longest stint of talk about your 6 years in Canberra, a year in Queensland to here. We've had a few changes in the CEO roles across the different states, but you're back in your sort of home state, grassroots player here. You represented Victoria in Bruce Cup. You've coached high performance coaching at Tennis Australia. You go into admin. I mean, arguably you're the most equipped CEO outside of Craig Tiley running the national body to really understand the tennis landscape here, Kim.
Oh, thank you, Brett. Appreciate the compliment there. But no, look, it has been great growing up. Tennis is in my DNA. My old man was a professional, top 100 in the world.
Yep.
Singles, top 20 in the world, doubles. Beat Arthur Ashe at Wimbledon, so, that's pretty solid.
Don't worry, Kim. He was in the studio here a couple of years ago, and he did tell that story with great affection, your dad.
Yeah, so look, I have been surrounded by the sport from, when I was born, basically. He was head coach of the AIS for 13 years, and we moved up to Canberra, funnily enough, so it's strange how tennis and my career's gone full circle and ended up back in Canberra. But, yeah, I was travelling around the world at different times with him, when he had Ben Elwood and Alicia Molik, Alan Balabragic, all these types of players. And saw that firsthand. And then as soon as I was able to coach, I was coaching at Boroondara Tennis Centre, obviously an institution here in Victoria, which has now got the freeway been relocated, but under Warren Marr. And, I lived a couple of 100 metres away from Ian Barclay, so I used to go around and hit with his promising juniors. Liz Pearce got me out there hitting with John Pearce as he was coming through the ranks. So, yeah, I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by tennis and a lot of great mentors over the journey, working with the likes of Steve Blundell, Craig Morris, Jeff Quinlan, Mark Reed. I've really been fortunate to have such a great network of tennis people around me, and then being able to see it from the player's perspective and as a coach and working in that National High Performance Academy and the National Academy environment. And now as an administrator and, all that comes with that as well.
So, Kim, how do you think the pathway is going? I mean, we talk about it on our show a fair bit. We have coaches, we have players that, come on the show throughout the course of the year. Lawrence Robinson from Tennis Australia is the national body, talking a lot about the opportunities we're providing for, kids, aspiring kids to, climb through the sport. You have a real understanding of the pathways. In fact, the Green Ball Series, I think, has just been launched statewide, for 10 and under players to provide some real clarity of this is what you need to do if you want to progress up. I mean, how do you think the whole pathway? Do you think it's clear and, for parents and players that this is what you're sort of getting into and this is the pathway?
Yeah, look, tennis, obviously we rely on the coaches at clubs to be able to signpost pathways as well, but it's really exciting. You touched on there the Green Ball Series here in Victoria, so that's a new initiative that the team's launched, and it will comprise about 150 odd tournaments across the state, split across two metro areas, so East and West Melbourne, and then 6 regional areas. So kids should be able to see that pathway playing in those various events, and then the regional finals, and then through to Super 10s. And then obviously it progresses from there into the now newly named D-Minar Tour. And it's great to have Alex's support behind that 12 and under and 14 and under junior tour. And I think we're constantly evolving the pathway, and it's becoming clearer. But there's some great numbers and stats that are coming through from Victoria at the moment around kids playing the sport. The participation rates are really increasing, so the sport's thriving. Yeah, the Green Ball Series was a really important one at that introductory level. And obviously Super 10s, established that back in the day. So Ian Barclay and myself were big advocates of that one and highlighting that pathway for the top talent in that 10 and under space. But Green Ball Series now links in with that.
Kim Kachel, the Tennis Victoria CEO, is our special guest, our final edition of the First Serve on this Monday night. So lots of hats you're wearing, lots of, big ticket items you're trying to be across with your team to, certainly, get right. I mean, what's the thing that, as a CEO, makes you have less sleep, Kim? Because it's all-consuming tennis, the thing that I suppose you really want to get right, but does take a bit of time to, bring to fruition.
Yeah, look, you're right. The role is incredibly diverse, and the sport never sleeps. You can be dealing with, ministers and government stakeholders, and then the next day, 10-year-old athletes and coaches. So you work across a real spectrum of different stakeholders. And look, the one thing that probably keeps you up at night is just, how are we going to improve? How do we keep getting incremental gains? How do we keep growing the sport? What have we done this week to, grow the sport? And ultimately, that's what it all boils down to. The wider the base, the higher the peak. So the more kids and adults we have out there picking up a racket and playing, the better off we are. So that's what keeps me up at night, thinking about how we can do that and what we need to put in place to grow the sport and enable more people to play more often. And we have just relaunched the new Tennis Victoria strategy through to 2027. So really excited by that and the 4 pillars in place there. And look, hot off press, we will be announcing this one shortly, but we do have an area of focus around sustainable regional tennis. It's an area that's near and dear to my heart, having my mum from Birchip in the Mallee region. Yep. And Dad from Tamworth. But in Victoria, there's a real opportunity around regional tennis. Only 31% of our affiliated venues have a coach servicing them, so there's a lot of upside there.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I feel like the last 3 or 4 years, just correspondence that's come into the show, just meeting more people in tennis around the state. It's a pretty passionate area, isn't it? When you talk to people in country tennis, and then you talk to people in metro tennis who want to support the country tennis events as much as they possibly can, but trying to get that 100% right and trying to please everyone, not an easy part of the role. We know in any sport, whether it's tennis, whether it's footy, that there is just so much talent outside of the capital cities, and trying to give those players a real pathway and an opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. And tennis has got a rich history and amazing champions coming from regional Australia. Obviously Rod Laver from Rockhampton and Pat Rafter, Mount Isa, Nicole Pratt, Mackay, Roy Emerson, Blackbutt, John Fitzgerald, regional SA, Cockleachy kids. So, we've produced, and that's just a handful that I've mentioned there, but there's so many champions from regional Victoria. It is an important part of our sport, regional Australia, I should say. But the focus on regional Victoria now in this role, there's not a silver bullet, and I do believe strongly that having coaches in regional Victoria and regional Australia is the biggest thing that will turn the dial. Yep. We need passionate coaches. There's some great examples of where it is working well, and I think you've had Helen McGill from Parks, New South Wales on the show before, but indeed, give or take 10,000 population there, and I think she's got close to 800 in her coaching program, so she's almost got 10% of the population playing tennis. She's a real community leader and a real role model, and she cares deeply about Parks and the community. They're the type of people we need to find in some of these areas where there aren't coaches. And I mean, all up and down the East Coast, there are coaches in regional Australia doing amazing things, but we just need more of them, because there's a lot of clubs that unfortunately are underserviced or don't have a coach at all. Indeed, a work in progress. 2 things to leave you with, and I've been to 2 Tennis Victoria Country Weeks. They are great weeks. It's in Swan Hill next year on the beautiful grass courts, February 9 to 14. It is massive. Over 1,000 competitors. It's almost the annual catch-up for so many, whatever level you're at. So I know that entries are open now, and Kim, you'd vouch for it. It's a brilliant week. It is. It's one event, believe it or not, I've actually never been to. I've done a lot of different things in tennis, so I'm Super, I know. Yeah, I'm super excited to get to country week in Swan Hill. I'm reliably informed that accommodation literally sells out, and we've been talking to council about where we can literally pitch tents and set up campgrounds because the accommodation just books out. It's that big. So we did go up to Mildura and Swan Hill recently, and it's like tennis heaven, those facilities, when you see all those grass courts, and we'll have near on 100 grass courts at Swan Hill, all in the same location there, hoping to have close to 1,400 players. It will be a brilliant event, and it's attracting attention across the whole of Australia and even internationally now. There's, people have heard about it and they're coming out and playing in the event. Yep. So it really does epitomise what's great about our sport, and it's that real fusion of social connection, getting out and getting active and having a laugh. And then there's also a pretty serious element to it as well.
Oh, indeed. Cross that white line. Everyone wants to win. And just the Newcombe medal is a fortnight away. There's some good nominations from the Tennis Victoria Awards. I mean, John Pearce, Olympic gold, going to take some beating. Jin Woodman, what a star, this young man, doing some beautiful things in wheelchair tennis. Ava Beck, we had her on the show. She was part of the junior Billie Jean King Cup team. Glenn Busby, I mean, the man, he looks like he'll play to about 100. Kim, so there's some good nominations from our backyard here for the national awards in a couple of weeks' time.
There are indeed, and look, I'd hate to be on one of those panels because they've got some tough decisions to make. There's a lot of deserving finalists, and obviously we'll be hoping that some of the Victorians get over the line. But yeah, look, a great list from Victoria, a great list nationally. John Pearce winning gold with Matt Ebden, that was pretty special. But there's a lot of good candidates there. And George Wojciarczyk as well as coaching excellence development. Yep. He's developed a lot of great players. Glenn Busby, you're right. He is phenomenal. He just keeps on keeping on and just dominating in the Masters. So, yeah, they're all in with a chance. And Jin Woodman, I think, is a really interesting one as well. He's in the Junior Athlete of the Year male category up against Hayden Jones and Cruz Hewitt. And obviously we had Finn Broadbent win our Athlete with a Disability Award. So, yeah, there's some fantastic finalists there, and we wish them all the very best of luck.
Really appreciate the chat, Kim. We'll do it again at some point, and I'll let you get your feet under the desk a little bit more. But you're back where it all started here in Victoria. It's a great place to be, of course, next door to the Australian Open, and a huge January to come. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Brett. Much appreciated.
Kim Kachel, the CEO of Tennis Victoria, sharing a few thoughts on this Monday night.